Welcome to the Place Retreats podcast, the show where we have real conversations about the things that matter most in our relationships. Today, we're talking about something many couples face, but few talk about openly when the sex disappears, the distance grows, and no one knows how to break the silence. My recent piece for The Times on sexual stalemate shines a compassionate and honest light on why desire fades, how resentment builds, and what it really takes to reconnect inside and outside the bedroom. As always, I'm joined by Amy and Louise, who'll be asking all the questions you're probably asking at home. If you've ever felt stuck in your relationship, this conversation is for you. Let's get into it. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello. So, Amy, we're both in long-term relationships, aren't we?
Yes.
So I think we can probably talk with some what's the word?
Well, I wouldn't say authority, but maybe just our lived experience.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this was a piece that was in the Times. Was it last Friday or Saturday, JC?
It was on Friday.
Friday, right.
Have you had a big response to this, JC?
There were a lot of comments.
Ah. Okay.
Not all of them nice, but then that's just how it goes.
Oh, that's how it is, isn't it? Yeah. Okay.
I wonder if it touches a nerve, maybe.
Possibly.
Yeah.
People feel very, how can I say, they feel very insecure talking about, something that they're facing every single day.
Yeah, I guess so. There was one bit that you you referred in the piece to a couple that you saw in your clinic, where the husband would sulk if she didn't want to have sex, and I just think, I mean, don't you just want to shout at people? No one ever was turned on by someone sulking when sex was declined. Someone acting like a big baby just isn't sexy, but it is something that happens, and I think it's something that men do quite a bit as well, isn't it?
May I speak from the male perspective?
Yes, you can.
We'll allow it on this
ladies.
occasion.
Think that also I hear very often in the clinic that what sounds like that ladies or women use sex as a power play in the relationship.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a very powerful dynamic that happens between people. And it's one that hits right to the core and on both sides. And I think that's why it might be used in an unattractive way. And what is so sad about it is that, it's again what we've talked about so often, vulnerability. It's about, expressing your needs, but in the correct way, not in a passive-aggressive way or an aggressive way. It's about being able to have a conversation, even if that conversation is really difficult for you to have. Right. But people would prefer to go for months or years on, no conversation about it at all, whilst meanwhile just building resentment like a puff pastry layer by layer.
It just becomes the elephant in the room, doesn't it?
The herd of elephants, not even the elephant.
Absolutely,
it becomes a herd of elephants.
Yeah,
and usually very often with couples in the practice, this is the last thing they want to talk about, and of course it should be one of the first things.
Yeah,
I learned from my mentor in Greece. Part of it was training for sexual issues, and be told that if a couple comes into your practice, do not say, how often do you have sex every week? You say, how often do you have sex? Once a year?
Oh, and manage it down so it doesn't sound so bad.
And I started, I must be very truthful, this about 27 years ago, I started laughing when I heard that.
Yeah.
And my mentor said, "Don't laugh. You will see." And blow me down. Absolutely. No, doctor, we do twice a year. Very proudly telling me the truth.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting how I've had couples that were 15 years in the same bed and never had sex.
Wow.
Wow.
But I'm saying wow, but then plus they're not talking about that.
No, not a word.
It's a bit like the opposite of when you're asked, I remember when I used to drink, how many units of alcohol do you have? And you're kind of like, oh, well, let's just kind of shave that down a bit. Whereas how many times do you have sex is like, well, let's just multiply that up. It's kind of the opposite.
And do you know what I want to come on to? When we say, it's just occurred to me, when we say having sex, do we mean like penetrative sex? Or do we mean all the other stuff as well?
I would think all the other stuff, but for many people, it's penetrative sex.
What? That's what they count as proper sex?
Yes.
Okay.
But I mean, where would we have learned about sex, Louise?
Exactly.
Well, in, I guess, books at school. I don't know.
Porn.
Oh. Okay, not me. That's not
I feel like
not you for the books at school, or for the books at school, or porn. No, I wasn't quite sure what you were referring to.
I remember my book I remember the book How Babies Are Made, which had that's how I mean,
how wholesome.
Yeah. But actually,
Louise.
that was when I was little. I thought you meant when you first, but then when you come on, when you're older, okay. So,
and I think a lot of men are sort of like, you wouldn't really have a porn scene where they're sort of like kissing and then, like doing all the other stuff like foreplay, and then it's like, and cut. It is like, we want the cum shot. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think that there is a thing of undoing that.
Wham, bam, a lamb, slam, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
So there's an amazing book from Bernie Silbergeld, which is called The New Male Sexuality. That is, I think, should be a must read for every male to understand, first of all, their own bodies, and secondly, how to please another person in having sexual relations.
And more about intimacy and connection rather than
and about the I think there is this belief system that good sex is when you have sex and both have an orgasm at the same time, and then you go and it isn't like that at all.
It is in the movies, not even pornography. That is like that's such a trope in movies that we've watched.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And I think that is an aspirational goal, but very far removed from reality.
Right.
Yeah, maybe we need to see porn where actually there's like crying and
educational porn.
Yes, yeah, like
isn't there ethical porn? There is ethical porn. I can't remember there's somebody that really pioneers it.
There was a little sort of freeze on in the press, wasn't there, of like porn made by women for women or something like that. Am I revealing my Google search?
No, because didn't we once interview the sex doctor? And I think that's where we heard about that. Maybe
this is all research, Amy. All research.
Yeah.
100%.
Can we just start sort of just thinking about, you wrote that sexual stalemate is often a holistic intimacy issue rather than just a dry spell in the bedroom. So what are some of the early warning signs that couples might overlook? Signs before, like signs that disconnection is deeper than just being busy or
Well,
tired.
I mean, not having sex is definitely one
Right.
of them.
Okay.
The sort of shuffling that happens to cover that we're not talking about it and not doing it.
What do you mean by the shuffling?
The sort of, I'll be in bed before the other person pretending to be asleep. I'll stay behind in the bathroom for another half an hour, hoping that the other person is asleep.
God, right, yeah.
So avoidance.
Yeah.
I'll get up in the morning very early, the moment I wake up, jump out of bed, and go and make coffee, and so there are all these, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And you keep hoping that it will change, but it doesn't.
Can I ask, should couples be going to bed at the same time? Or
I think couples should do what suits them both, but not forget to have sex.
Yeah, right, okay.
But that can be in the afternoon, in the morning, at night. It doesn't matter where and how, apart if you have children, of course.
Yeah.
It makes it a little bit more difficult. But, we can be creative. We can be, we live in the Far East where you have people helping you, and it's worse than having children because they're always everywhere.
Yeah.
They're not children that you can say you can't come into the bedroom. Especially in Indonesia, where there is very little about privacy. I mean, somebody can walk into your bedroom at 2:00 in the morning, switch on the lights, and start a conversation, and you think, "Hello, I'm sleeping."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, let alone anything else.
Yeah, but for them, there's no. It's all good, and it's a wonderful way of living. But it might not always be very conducive to having a private life. So, I think that you can become creative, you can become imaginative, you can become adventurous, all of these things.
Okay. Right.
And so I think that, when there's this whole thing of what I describe in the article or in the feature, the tit for tat, selfish, cold, shut down, protect myself, and the complacency that exists, the thoughtlessness that exists, forgetting just what the other person needs. And expressing your own needs. And don't expect that you say, I feel like having sex, that the other person can say, yeah, me too. I was waiting for you to say something and now we can do it.
Right.
It's usually much more of a conversation. What has happened to us? What are your needs? What are my needs? How can we meet each other in a soft and kind tone, rather than we haven't had sex for the last 6 months. What's going on with you?
Yeah. So how can couples start that honest, non-defensive conversation about
by expressing
desire?
Their needs, Louise.
But some people, people might find that quite tricky if it's not something they're used to. But what do you prefer? What do you choose? Not to communicate, or not to communicate and be bereft of something that is a need in you, or being stoic, or taking the risk.
Yeah. I guess it's sort of it all comes back to communication, doesn't it? And I think
is that C word again?
That thing of actually.
I mean, how could you possibly begin to think that you can be in a relationship with someone and not communicate what is going on inside you?
Yeah.
I mean,
but you must see it all the time.
Yeah,
how
but people do
that.
They? Yeah.
But what I find so extraordinary is that when they then come to the sessions, it's like you've burst the dam, and it all comes tumbling out.
Yeah. So I guess how do people get that
They use the same dare. They use the same dare or the same pressure that of holding it in to turn that around and push it out.
Yeah.
I think that's
what if one person says, "Look, can we talk about sex?" and the other person says, "Oh no, I don't like. They don't want to.
I understand. Are you then willing to listen?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because it's important for me that I tell you how I feel.
And what about like couples as they get much older and might, one person might not want to, might not be able to, and the other person does. And what if you're not aging at the same time? Because that age presumably is an issue further down the line.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
There are sex toys. There is porn. There is a lot of other things, cuddling, holding. We are very capable when we want to.
Okay. So again,
I remember you saying in an earlier episode about how even before you get to the bedroom, that thing of kind of like just being affectionate, just in day-to-day stuff. And I remember you saying that quite a while ago, because like for Dan and I, okay, this is the Amy overshare jingle cue.
Great, I love it. Come on.
Go on. We're listening, Amy.
When we first met, we were like 25. We were in London. We'd like shagged around, and then we met, and we just kind of like, it was just like we just had this explosive chemistry, and I was kind of, this is just another one notch on my bedpost kind of thing. So we had amazing sex all the time. And then obviously this other thing grew, which was like we kind of fell in love, right? So then you have like the love and the sex, and just amazing. And then obviously like we got married, and we like tried to conceive a child, and all of the stuff that goes along with that. And so you go from like, it's quite a big clunky gear change, isn't it? Yeah. From like, oh God, this is how we met and how we connected and how, and sometimes it has occurred to me in my, thoughtful moments. And I have said this to Dan, whether he'd want it broadcast on a podcast is another matter entirely. But
I think he'd be fine with it.
Is that was that our only, like, was that all that was? Do you know what I mean? You and I've said sort of like the compatibility of us both being sort of mid-20s horny kind of, London, girls and guys about town. And now, that sort of gear change of like, and I'm like, oh God, he obviously doesn't desire me as much because I'm now this kind of, leaking, cranky, like, and there is a thing of like, I'm not going to get as turned on as quick as I used to when you haven't emptied the bins, just all the drudgery, domestic shit. But the thing with Dan and I is that we are always like, let's talk about this. So
there we go.
Yeah, it is kind of like, we've talked about it, and it is something, not that I'm wishing my children to go off to university, but I'm kind of like, will we return to those? Will we be like
that will
empty
depend
nesters?
on you and your husband.
Yeah.
Because I mean, as I'm the senior here amongst the three of us, I can tell you, sex at 65 could still be amazing. It can still be mind-blowing. It can still be very fulfilling, very satisfying, very intimate, very adventurous. I don't think there is an age on it. It's what you allow yourself for.
Yeah.
And, I'm not in a long-term relationship, but 7 years is not, short either.
No.
And, there's still lots of room for play and fantasy and enjoyment and creativity and looking after each other.
Yeah. So those things that if we're thinking about like everyday gestures or habits that have that impact on intimacy, it's I suppose showing that you care about them, isn't it? sort of during the
for
day.
me, my
and...
partner makes me a cup of tea first thing
Yeah.
in the morning and last thing at night, without fail.
Yeah.
And I have come to rely on it, and it's almost like a barometer. Even if he forgets, I go, "Is everything okay?"
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And and he goes, "Oh, shoot, I forgot, sorry." And it's very rare that he forgets, very, very rare. But it happens, and it's that's automatic. But I ask immediately. I don't sit there stoically and then stomp off and make my own cup of tea and don't say anything. And he, sits on the other side of the bed, pretending to ignore the thing. We just, we ask each other, "Are we okay? Is everything okay between us? I feel this or I feel that."
Yeah.
That's the most British thing I've ever heard from two people who are not, like, a cup of tea being the barometer or being like a... It's amazing what tea can do, kids, honestly.
But it's absolutely, it's amazing because it is really the barometer.
And also, that being, you see, I'm very, like, if I'm obsessed about something or worried about something, so that tea example, I wouldn't just sit quietly thinking, "Oh, I didn't get my cup of tea." I'd be like, "What the fuck's going on?
What's
happening?
Let's
Where's my
move
fucking
on
tea,
from
bitch?"
the cup of tea. I want this, you ladies always ask me a question. This week I want to turn it round.
Go on then.
And I want to ask you ladies questions.
Okay.
When we say physical attraction can go off the board in the strongest of relationships, are you doing enough to maintain it? And so my question is, do you girls still want to come home and rip your partner's husband's clothes off and jump into bed?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm just knackered like all the time.
Oh, well, you see, Amy, now I'm 10 years ahead of you, so we don't have haven't got any of those bloody kids hanging around my ankles anymore.
Yeah.
You'll get some energy back. Yeah.
And also, I think I don't know if we touched on this, whether it was when we were having one of our sort of chats, the three of us, but we recently went away to Mallorca for 3 days. And there was like this, I could feel this building pressure to sort of like,
wild, rampant sex.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, come on, feel that, come on,
your
you can
loins,
do it,
girl.
You
Girth
can
your loins."
I'm like, we've got this gorgeous hotel, and really it'd be great to just be ripping up the sheets. And I'm kind of like,
you're so tired.
But what we did do is it's not quite as satisfying, but we had a good old chat. With a
cup of tea.
With a cup of tea. And the other interesting thing, because obviously I don't drink anymore, and Dan does, and so that used to be something that literally kind of lubricated the thing, and so sober sex is a different thing, especially when the other person isn't sober.
Yeah.
And so that's another element. So there's lots of different sort of factors of it. But I think we just got to keep talking, even though there is this feeling of like, oh, we're failing here somehow, aren't we? Because we're not like we were back when we were 25.
I think if you go away on it was just the two of you went away for a few days. That's a lot of expectation and pressure.
Only that I was putting on myself, and I think he was putting on himself a bit as well.
Yeah,
and,
that's
and I
what
was
I mean. I wasn't suggesting. But
didn't you talk about it beforehand?
Yeah, we talked about it beforehand because obviously we booked these flights and we managed to sort the childcare thing out. So we were going away, and I said, listen, let's just take the pressure off, okay? Let's just say like we're not like. I'm going to set the bar really low. Yeah. We're not fucking on this holiday.
Yeah.
We are not making love on this holiday. But let's talk about that. And actually, then maybe we might.
Yeah.
So, it just kind of demystifies it a bit.
If I was your therapist as the couple, I would have said you're not allowed to have any sexual relations between each other during the entire time, which would sort of 90% guarantee that you would.
That you would, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? Like,
oh, thanks.
Yeah, just that is Paul bringing you a cup of tea?
Coffee.
Oh,
it's coffee time now.
This is. Oh, it's coffee time. Is that a different? That's a different
message. That's a different message. Will you cook my lunch?
He makes my lunch as well. He makes my breakfast. He makes my lunch. He makes me coffee. We have a machine that makes the tea in the morning up in our bedroom, and then I make supper in the evening. So we have our roles, but
that's such a good system.
That he does, like that's showing that he cares. Because he knows that before this I have a spin class, and I run in and I'm starving, and I've got 5 minutes, so it's all made ready. Just things like that.
That shows a lot of
you were slagging him off. You were slagging him off last week for always being late, weren't you? So is.
I mean, So I mean, he's not perfect, that's for sure. And when he's late, that's a real turn off. But
Yeah. I think this is the other thing.
But
so
that's nothing a bowl of porridge can't repair, Louise.
Yeah, all I need is a bowl of porridge. That's it.
It doesn't take much to turn this girl on, does it? But I think the thing of sort of the communication thing, and I think we were talking last week, weren't we, about how sometimes in our sort of household, Dan runs this like a department of his company or something, and so we're all his employees, and I'm kind of like, that doesn't
I'm resigning, Dan.
Yes, that doesn't sort of so there's all the stuff. Do you think is it a male female thing to sort of be able to segregate all that stuff? There's resentment building because of just functional domestic stuff, and then you get into the bedroom and some people can just switch that off and say,
Look,
well, no.
The truth is that we men have 2 brains, but only enough blood to keep one at a time going.
Yeah. Because do you know the other thing is that men, if I come into Paul and do a nice sort of gesture of like, kiss him, put my arm around him, during the day,
he's good to go.
That's it. He'll think that we're about to have sex. Like so there's none of this sort of, being, because I think when we spoke to the sex doctor ages ago.
Well, look at Paul now in a completely different way, Louise.
She talked about sexual currency, and it's like, like during the day, kissing or, being just affectionate with each other. Like, if there is any affection, that's it. Paul's like, right, okay, well, obviously
that's
that
the
means,
green light.
Yeah, we're going to have sex. Like, so I don't come in.
I think that's maligning Paul. Let me just stand up for my fellow, male
I am right.
colleague on the podcast. I mean, when you see, you ladies are terrible, because when we show that we are ready and available, you don't want it. But when we're not, that's when you give us hell. But, the whole thing is, can you see, Louise, how beautiful this interplay is? And which shows that your sexual relationship is still intact and is happening. Imagine that there would be nothing there. And then how to start that conversation, how frightening that might be for people.
Yeah.
You know, to actually, where do I start?
Yeah.
And sometimes I say to people, well, maybe a start is, do you remember when we used to do that? And we seem to have forgotten. Maybe we should do a refresher course. And maybe use seriousness, but also a bit of humor. Because humor takes a lot of tension out of the situation. So I think it's very important that you try and get to the right mix between the seriousness of the situation, but also not make it too serious.
Bring some humor in. Yeah.
As I wrote, none of us feel pure animal lust towards our partner after decades. But that doesn't mean that we cannot still lust after them. And you have to find, as I said, you have to be creative. You have to find ways, use imagination. even tell each other your fantasies. We're all aging, and that's if we're lucky.
Yeah.
And as you've talked about before, appearance, health, look after yourself, but make each other laugh, show that you can have a good time. I think that's very, very important, that you look after yourself and after the other person.
Yeah.
And don't be disrespectful in the relationship. All of us age, and all of us will have bits that sag or that inflate, or this or that or the other. But are we looking at the external packaging, or are we looking at the person, what they have inside, and what's still? I've read this several times on intimacy. Will you still love me? Will you still care for me as I change and grow? Rather than, are you still besotted with me? Are you still madly in love with me? But love has many forms. It doesn't need to be always, but in those many forms, physicality is extremely important, and taking care of that, I think, is one of the top things that keeps a relationship going. I think that sex is the cement between the bricks of a relationship.
Did you are you aware of Caitlin Moran? She was writing about her marriage, obviously been married for 20 odd years, and she was sort of saying, like, you really do have to schedule sex. Like, and sometimes you might not feel. Have you read this? Does this ring a bell with you, Louise? She was saying it's kind of like, and sometimes you might not want to do it, but I guess it's that thing of like, if you don't use
it or lose it.
Yeah. And at the time, I think she's such a great writer. I think it was so compelling. I was kind of like, right, Dan, let's do a diary session, and let's ring fence the time, to do it. But again, in practicality,
and how did that work out for you, Amy?
Well, it would be like, let's ring fence this time, and obviously it's kind of got to be during the day because that's when the kids are at school. And then I would be like, do you know what? If you got a work call that you need to do, because I just don't think this is. I know I'm pissed off. My back's up. My shoulders are tense. And that might not be anything to do with something that he's done to piss me off. It might just be life in general. And I'm kind of like, I don't want to waste your time. But actually, that is so revealing, isn't it? That it just sitting there, and even just like it sounds a bit Kama Sutra, but just stroking each other, or just sort of. Like looking into each other's eyes.
He hasn't got
something.
time for that, Amy. He
hasn't got time.
Just bend over.
The city is calling. The wheels of industry can't grind to a halt because he needs to stare into my eyes.
I can't imagine that Paul, in the middle of like a weekday, if I were to say, well, let's just lie here stroking each other for a bit, he'd be like, well, I've got a 4 o'clock, so. No, it would need to be right. Quickly, let's get that over and done with. Brilliant, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm getting back with his headphones on, doing his producing.
You see, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I'm quite a morning person, so I'd be up for it in the morning. He's not at all. And I remember, again, something you referred to last week, Louise. But I remember I used to go out with this guy, and he would wake me up every morning with a hard on in my back, like spooning me. And I was kind of like, oh, that would be great now, actually. Maybe I should invite him in now to service my needs in the morning. But again, back then, so it's interesting, sort of. I think it is about compatibility, isn't it? If one person has got quite a high sex drive and the other person hasn't.
But also different times of the day. I completely get that. You see, I mean, Dan might prefer when you go to bed at night, but you're exhausted. You don't want to do it then. You want to do it first thing in the morning. Well, you've got to communicate that and come to another C word, compromise, which I think came up last week. wasn't it? Communication, compromise, and something else.
We need to think of another C word, don't we? I'm sure something will come to us. Yeah, but I guess how do you? It is about communication, isn't it? Meeting each other's sort of.
Yeah, and it's about a lot of things. It's about communication, but it's also how do you behave within the couple in and out of the bedroom.
Yeah.
And the truth is that sexual stalemate is fed by bad feeling.
Yeah. Okay.
There is one thing that I've been trying to do.
If there's no bad feeling, a playful grab can lead to something.
Yeah. Whereas... I was going to say, I have been like quite affectionate towards Dan, and my 14-year-old and my 10-year-old are just like,
get the bedroom.
Oh my God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And if anything, I was kind of like, oh, this is an interesting reaction because they're actually not used to seeing us being like that. So that was this was however long ago when I think we were talking
2002.
Oh no, things were hot in 2002, JC. Oh, I mean, if we'd had OnlyFans in 2002, we could have made enough money to actually just never have to work again, I reckon. But yes, being affectionate in front of your teenage kids who are just like, oh, you're gross, and we are actually laugh at that because then we just start snogging with full tongues in front of them, and they're just like, oh,
yeah.
What are you doing? They're so repulsed.
Yes. So it won't be long before they will not be repulsed anymore and want it themselves.
Yeah.
Yes, but we're not good poster. We're not poster children. We're not the poster kids for that. They're just like, oh, that's it's so cringe.
Oh.
And I think what is very what you just said, and I wrote it in my feature. Your relationship can begin to feel transactional, never playful. And what you are just telling us about, Amy, is that, how to maintain the playfulness. Because that's the way to build at it, no?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I told you that she'd, again, I don't know if I said this on the podcast or not, who cares? I'm just sharing everything. But she'd said to me, why don't you guys just get divorced? Did I tell you that?
No.
Oh, I thought I told you that. This was ages ago.
Why? Because she thought you were just bickering at each other all the time.
Yeah, she said, he treats you like you're the hired help. I mean, my daughter has got like a turn of phrase and a way with words. And she said, you're down in the dungeon. He's king of the castle at the top. He barks orders at you. And I was kind of like, okay. I said, Mabel, when you get into a relationship, you'll realise you have to choose your battles. And she was like, well, I wouldn't let someone talk to me like that. And I was like, oh, shit, from the mouths of babes. I'm kind of like, what has she seen or heard that? I don't know. He's obviously, this is coinciding with me saying, we are not your employees here, okay?
Yeah.
So you're not managing this department, we are, all that. So now we've got the other extreme where she's like, this is PDA,
Yes, public
TMI,
displays of affection.
And I'm like, well, what do you want? Do you want us bickering and not talking to each other, or do you want us? There's no happy medium.
No,
but yeah.
So, and that's life, isn't it? I guess there are times when, like, it might, from the outside, all look like a bit of a mess,
but here we are describing all the time the opposite of stalemate, no?
Yes, so I guess at least if the chess pieces are being moved around the board, we are not in a sort of and I guess what your article was talking about is like how you even broach this subject if it's been
but I think it's very good for people to hear what can happen because many people don't even know that.
So the road is a bit rocky and it is a bit. It can be clunky and it can be awkward and scary.
Amy, the road is rocky for people that are having sex and that are having a good relationship and that are playful. Imagine if you didn't have that.
Yeah.
That cement between the bricks. And I think that's, one of the biggest issues is always how to reconnect.
Yeah. So can you give us, an example of a pattern that you've seen where a couple have made real progress?
Well, I see many couples, as you know, and I think what is very important is that they can understand what is it that they need, not necessarily what they want, but what is it that they need, and how are these needs going to be met. And first of all, we need to ask what the needs are, and what they need to be aware of what the needs are individually and together. And then see if the other partner can still meet those needs.
Yeah.
Because it's, you can't ask something that somebody else is no longer capable or is no longer wanting to be capable of. But all of that can be discussed.
Okay.
And so I think, you need to try. You need to try and try and try again and not give up after one try and say, see, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Do
you think there's a thing of feeling like ashamed that you don't want sex or guilty that you do want sex? Is there a bit of...
I think that there's a shame of not daring to talk about it and how you feel. And what I find always so strange is that how can couples that have spent so much time together stop being able, because it's a mirror image, no? They stop being able to talk about it, so they stop being able to do it.
It is a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And actually it is quite easily reversible. I'm not saying that it's an instant gratification that's going to change like that. But what happens is that once people start talking about it or listening to it, things start usually moving quite rapidly. Because we are herd animals, and so we're always looking for connection.
Yeah.
As I've always said, the most dangerous thing is when people become indifferent. That is really the danger point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that like women will go out with their friends and maybe talk about this. Maybe men go out with their friends and talk about it. I don't know if...
Oh, I don't think that for us men it's easy to talk about sex unless it's in glowing references about ourselves, what we have been able to do.
Yeah. I guess nobody is sitting in the pub saying, we've not...
I'm having a problem with erectile dysfunction.
Yeah, right.
Whereas women will talk to each other about having a dry patch or dry spell in their relationship.
Yeah.
And so, this is exactly, what we are very good at as men is putting ourselves in the role of the victim, that, we're not getting enough sex. But we're not that willing to look into that and see what we could do different, or what our contribution is, or what our role is, or what we are contributing to that situation. And I think that for many women, one of the things that is very off-putting and which men very often don't realize is that women are fed up practicing, the male masturbation and the female vagina.
Yeah. Was it in your piece? Was it in your piece where you said
I didn't want the Times readers to spit out their cornflakes on a Saturday morning.
No.
But
this is such a lovely accompany piece to your article, because obviously we are not we can say anything on here, but it is so true, isn't it? And if you've got into that habit, that pattern of being just for him to just get his rocks off, and she hasn't, and then that you have to unpick all that. Well, oh God, well, how long has that been going? You know, again, it's just.
Yeah. And why can't she say, "Hey, hang on a minute," you know?
Yeah.
What about me?
Yeah. But then I guess that's for lots of women.
I mean, the whole thing that the excuse that is darted out usually is that low desire, high desire. You know, that's usually the and I always say, you know, to people, you both have a responsibility here.
Yes, that's it. That's what you said. Yeah.
You know, if the woman is too scared to divulge what she needs, then she will not get what she needs, and she will start feeling resentful, and the distance will build. But consequently, men are not very good to look at themselves with a critical eye at our own attitudes, our own performance.
Yeah. I mean, I always feel that... Sorry, go on.
So, you know, if men think that, you know, wham, bam, a lamb, slam, thank you, ma'am, is the way to show, you know, their masculinity and, you know, their dominance and all of this, then for most women, that is such a turn-off.
Yeah.
You know, and then being called that they have a low libido or frigid, you know, is adding insult to injury.
Yeah.
You know, because you are shaming the other person. And imagine with all those ingredients, how are you going to have good sex? It's just not possible.
It's I don't know if it's like slightly my age group, but definitely I know of couples where, you know, the bloke will be sort of moaning that they don't have sex very often. And it is always sort of slightly, as if it's the woman's fault. But, you know, I just think, well
instead
you're obviously
of doing
a bit
that,
shit
can
you know, just
at,
put some more effort in.
Louise,
what are you doing?
At what can we do to change it?
Yeah. But
you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's always the danger in couples. Now, if you're too close, it becomes almost impossible. But if you're too far apart, you know, it's very difficult to reconnect. So there is this, you know, happy medium.
And it all comes down to communication, doesn't it? Of course.
And I always, as I wrote in my feature, daring to disagree and asserting your individuality can reignite a spark. And, you know, you said, oh, wow, you know, there is still a person in there that I recognize from when we were younger. You know, and that's what I want to reconnect to. You know, and so one of the things that we had the most fun with when we were writing this feature was talking about, you know, our friends that are single or divorced or dating, you know, of how amazing their private lives are. Oh my God. I mean, you know, I feel 16 again. We're madly in love. We're doing it all the time. And that's beautiful. And you can be very happy for your friends. It's, of course, a different matter when at home, you know, you have a standoff in the bedroom and nothing has happened for the past 18 months, you know? And so you have to be outwardly happy for your friends, but inwardly you're cringing because, you know, that seems like a faint, distant memory that when that happened to you. Yet you would still like that to happen, but you just don't know. You just don't know. How in the world would a miracle like that be possible? It just wouldn't be, you know? And so then what happens is that our friends' stories become, you know, the summum of how, you know, your private life should be. And of course, it's not about that. It's about what your needs are. You know, and the dangers that we start comparing, making us even feel worse about the situation. You know, so look at yourself and say, what do I need to do to get to that point? And no, that doesn't mean going out with your gym trainer or with your Pilates instructor, or with your yoga instructor. But what it means is that how can I achieve this again? And that's the start of a conversation with your partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of how, what is it that I can contribute? What is it that he can contribute? And can we help each other, to be happier together?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because I've got a few friends who are there now, and they're sort of like meeting new people. They've come out of their marriages, or and I'm torn because part of me is kind of like, oh yeah, like I guess that thing of discovery, like of somebody new, and like that's all like exciting, and because you've not built up all the layers of the history that has gone on between you, and the things that were said, and the way that you acted on that and not said, and the way that you looked at me at that barbecue in 2011 when I was breastfeeding our child, and you would all that stuff. You don't have any of that. It's just new flesh to discover. But the other part of me is like, oh no, I'm no. I'm just gonna. I'm very safe, and I'm happy in my relationship, and I'm so. And do you think maybe there is a thing of just? This is I'm imagining people who maybe have got stuck in a rut and they've not spoken about it, and it has become this herd of elephants in the room. But there is there's like a safety in that, because that's
it's familiar,
know.
And we know what to do.
Yeah.
So we know we don't have to go onto, shaky ground.
Yeah. If you're sweeping stuff under the rug, eventually that rug is going to trip you up. But if you're sweeping stuff under the rug and there's like maybe a hole underneath the rug, then it doesn't trip you up, and actually it just becomes a safe thing of just not. We just don't talk about it.
But this
I don't know. Is that
this
that's
is
when
exactly
maybe you go
that.
and find somewhere else?
This is that's the biggest danger. But what I read, you can't just start having sex, but you can start talking about it, and then you can. That is, I think that I always say to couples, let's rebuild trust outside the bedroom before we start having trust in the bedroom.
Right.
So true. Yeah.
And so because stalemate is usually because of both people feeling hurt, isolated, unsafe, rather than physically and emotionally supported, because that's what they're looking for. But if they don't get that, then, sex is the first thing that will fall away.
Yeah.
And, creating a space, or creating a possibility of being able to say, and, it might come as a thunderbolt to one or the other partner, to talk about this, but also don't expect immediate results. No instant gratification. I mean, if it does, it's wonderful. But if it doesn't, it's okay. You might have to have 3, 4, 6, 10, 12 conversations about it before you get somewhere.
Yeah. But once you start that conversation...
This is always the thing, Amy. How to begin that awkward conversation. Oh, Mr. Therapist, I don't know how to do that. I don't know. And I go, well, you seem to be very good at not doing it. So why don't you put the same energy into having the conversation? Because not having the conversation means that you have to twist and turn and bend and, contort yourself into a lot of directions. And you become a chameleon par excellence not to have the conversation. What if you use that energy to actually have the conversation? Go for it. There's nothing wrong. I mean, you are married to that person, or you are living with that person, or you are together with that person. If you can't have a conversation that could make your relationship better, what are you having?
Yeah.
So, and I gave some examples in the feature, there's something troubling me. I would like to see what you think. You can even say, this is really difficult and I'm really scared of having this conversation with you. I'm scared of myself and I'm scared of you and your reaction, Or you can say things like, I'm bringing this subject because I believe that's what we would both like to happen. Am I right, or do you want something different?
Mm.
You know? Or be very vulnerable and say things like, I miss you. I would love it if, we could be closer together. I really miss the physical intimacy that we used to share, But someone needs to make the courageous step first. Otherwise, nothing is going to change.
Yeah.
Of course, it's always a risk with these conversations. If your partner remains indifferent, perhaps you need to have a different conversation.
This is it, isn't it? This
Yeah.
is the thing of like, I daren't unpick that because that could lead to that, and then the whole thing unravels. Is very, very frightening. It's really scary.
I'm
but
going
as
to
you
settle
always
for being unhappy.
You always say, do you want to live like this? Is this working for you? Are you are you happy to live like this? And the really sad, depressing truth is so many people are, and the even more depressing thing is so many women who are kind of like, oh, I could never afford, like the financial implications of blowing up unraveling the whole thing. But actually, the other flip side of that is, what if it didn't all unravel? What if actually
it got better?
You were looking back in 2 years' time and saying, oh my God, can you remember when we were just sort of living separate lives?
And there comes the next point, Amy. Separate lives. And I always say to people, when you have stalemate, it doesn't mean your partner is being unfaithful or having an affair. But it could be, especially if the stalemate is long-standing, And then comes the added worry that, maybe he's having an affair. And I definitely don't want to rock the boat on that one because of economic ramifications, the children's schools, all of this. So, I think that, obviously it's the first thing we think about is, he doesn't want me or she doesn't want me. There's obviously someone else involved. But what if that someone else is actually you that is not willing to make the effort? Then you're actually driving someone away. And so you can't blame your partner. It's actually about, what was your contribution that has happened?
Yeah, because when
and when people admit to having affairs, very often I hear, I asked for what I needed in the relationship so many times. I intimated it, I shouted it, but they weren't hearing me. And in the end, what I understood was that they weren't willing or they weren't capable of giving me what I needed. And so I felt like I needed to find it somewhere else. And it can mean that an affair means that it's the end of the relationship,
or can be the
sexual
beginning of.
But the truth is that most people who have affairs don't leave their partners to marry the person.
No.
We only know too well that of affairs that have gone on for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And the partner doesn't leave the other person. So, look at it. There was something that was missing in the relationship. You were drifting. It's a situation that you have both contributed to. It's not just one person. And you need to admit, where do I want to stop the rot?
Yeah.
We have a responsibility, but as I always say to people that have had an affair, if you want to continue the relationship, if both of you still want to do that, rebuilding trust is a long, difficult task. And the person that transgressed will have to accept that they will be under the microscope for a couple of years because the trust has really been eroded. That's a wrap on today's episode. I hope we've managed to share some wisdom and warmed around one of the most tender topics in long-term relationships. If your relationship feels like it's in a holding pattern, know the stalemate isn't the end, it's a signal. And with attention, honesty, and effort, things can change. Thanks for listening, and as always, please take care of yourselves and each other.
And if this episode has resonated with you, please consider rating and reviewing the podcast. It really does help people find these conversations. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.
And you'll find the link to the piece that we've discussed today, which was written for The Times, in the show notes alongside our podcast email. We'd love to hear from you. And all of our Instagram details are there too.